Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christine Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this story with Dwyane Wade, and he's been accused by his ex-wife that he is exploiting their transgender, it's his son, but they say daughter, Zaya, who's 15, for financial gain. So I want to talk about that because their whole display, it's always really disturbed me. I've always wondered, what is the ex-wife doing while all this is going on and they're putting their trans child in the spotlight with this social contagion so going on with the trans movement. So this is circling around the wagons in the right-wing media. So here's my chance to talk about it. So Daily Mail and T-Post Millennial and other people are reporting on it. So I'm very interested in that. Also, the red wave is coming. Democrats are flipping out. They're pouring in millions of dollars into races that are very, very blue, that they're afraid are going to be toss-ups or lean, or just slight lean blue or leaning red. And it's pretty darn interesting. I heard from a good inside source that at least in Michigan, they think that Tudor is actually going to pull it out. We'll see what happens. But there's going to be a lot of pain for Democrats all across the country. So much so that the Washington Post actually reported on a story saying, in his opinion piece, but saying that Biden and Harris, for the good of the country, should not run again, which is pretty remarkable. Which he's very old. So there's that. He was quite old to run now, and he's not all with it, and his cognitive ability and stuff isn't all there. He's just kind of a hot mess in that regard, but that's not why they don't want them to run also. But it's also funny that they're also throwing Kamala Harris under the bus. And to be frank, I don't know how people are going to react to that. So we'll get to all that. But before we do, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content that I have on my website, different videos, different articles. I got a lot of videos that I put out, different articles that I put out. I put one out the other day about religious bigotry of the left. I'm putting out one right now about the topic that we talked a little bit about yesterday, regarding the consent laws. The Democrats are trying to pretend like they're not trying to get rid of parental consent laws when they literally tried to do it twice. So I've tipped off a couple of local newspapers and said, hey, you guys haven't touched this angle yet, and we'll see what happens, because it is relevant and very important for people to know. But we'll continue to try to push that information out. Check out different merch that we have at the store, like the Protest Men Are Sus shirts. I got the My Money, My Business shirt, which is so relevant today because Planned Parenthood, for example, really, really believes your taxpayer dollars should fund abortion. So here's a question for you guys. How can abortion be between a woman and her doctor if it also involves your wallet? So that's why I made shirts like that. And also I got the great, the Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document. So great stuff. You guys can check out on the website. Also, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost to stream, cost to run my website, cost to travel, cost to do all sorts of stuff. So if you can help with that overhead, I very much appreciate it. Go to blacktnews.com/donate. And if you just can support by sharing and liking and tagging, I do also very much appreciate that as well. If you go the extra mile and gift something, I'd appreciate that too. But when you guys share, that does also help. Make sure that even if you watch on Facebook, make sure that you go over to YouTube and also subscribe there. That does also help. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. All my handles should really be in the links if you're in the description below. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, also want to thank the Brighter Michigan PAC. I'm in their studio. If I say something today that triggers you, nobody cares, but they are doing great work and they do like to uplift conservative voices. So that is why I'm here in the studio. So, I don't have a funny meme for you guys today, I'm afraid. I'm going to have to just jump right into the story of the day with Dwyane Wade. So, I seeing all this from the media, from the background, or just watching it unfold with his son and then identifying as a girl. I think he had a girlfriend who identified as a boy and they're dating each other. All very kind of weird. And I wondered how much was him being weird and how much was Gabrielle Union. And I kept wondering, I'm like, what is the actual mother of this child thinking and saying? And what does she think about all this? So this is from the Daily Mail. Dwyane Wade's ex-wife claims he is exploiting their transgender daughter, Zaya, 15, for financial gain. Child's mother begs court to force her to wait until 18 before legally changing sex. So this article is respecting their pronouns. I'm just gonna read it as is. I don't normally respect people's your real pronoun should coordinate with your sex, but I'm just gonna read what they have. FYI, Dwyane Wade's ex-wife has accused him of exploiting their 15-year-old transgender daughter for financial gain and is begging a court to intervene to stop her from changing her name and gender on her birth certificate. In court papers filed this week that were obtained by The Blast, Chavo Fuchs Wade. I do not know what her real name is. I don't know what that is. I tried. The star's first wife and mother of his two oldest children begged a judge to impose an order that would ban the 15-year-old daughter Zaya from legally changing her gender from male to female until she is 18. Zaya, as she is now known, came out age 12 in 2019. That is bonkers, man. Bonkers. Since then, she has won modeling contracts with brands like Tiffany, Dove, and amassed hundreds of thousands of social media followers. According to her mother, she is also in talks for deals with Disney. For what? She often appears on red carpets with her father and stepmother, Gabrielle Union, who have spoken frequently in interviews about their acceptance of the child and her choice. But the teen's mother fears she is being pressured into the permanent change by her father, who is poised to profit from the transaction. She is fighting to block the gender and name change and wants Zaya to make the decision for herself when she is 18. I have concerns that Dwyane may be pressuring our child to move forward with the name and gender change in order to capitalize on the financial opportunities that he has received from companies, she said in her legal filing. It was a response to an August petition by Wade to allow Zaya to legally change her name from Zion Melchiah Aramis Wade to Zaya Melchiah Amarias Wade. In his August filing, the former athlete claimed he had legal right to make decisions on his daughter's behalf and that he was only informing his ex-wife as a courtesy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't know how I would not react well. The nerve for a man to tell me that after birthing a whole human being and saying, I just told you as a courtesy. Oh my gosh. I'm like ready to just walk out of here and come back. Oh my gosh, just the nerve, the audacity. What a creep. What a creep. Wade obtained full custody of the boys when he divorced their mother In 2011, in a 2012 interview with Mail Online, the boy's mother detailed her agony at losing them to her ex after a 4-year court battle. She believes he was only awarded custody because of his money and fame. I think it is weird for a woman to lose custody. He is famous, obviously. He does have a lot of money, and I'm assuming a lot of pull. And it is, I'm not saying, I don't know their background that much to know whether she should or shouldn't have lost the custody. I'm just saying that it is strange, and I don't think his daughter, their sons are better off. I think influence has a lot to do with it. Celebrity has a lot to do with it. Money had a lot to do with it. She said at the time, Wade fought bitterly for custody of the kids. During the divorce, Funches own attorney cited her struggles with mental health. Now she says her ex husband is poised to profit from the transition. She cited the conversation in April during which she claims Dwyane told her that a lot of money had been already made and that additional money would be made in relation to our child's name and gender issue. Dwyane told me that he intended to make our child very famous due to the name and gender issue, and also informed me that there would be endorsements, contracts associated therewith. She claims, I'm concerned that our child is being commercialized at a young age, and also the uncontrollable consequences of media exposure, bullying, statements and or pictures taken out of context of our child, and the unwanted spotlight focused on our child. I don't think their child has unwanted spotlight, I suppose. But when it's good, they love it. When they're getting all that praise. I wasn't aware of all the contracts and stuff they got with Dove and became a model, and Disney's reaching out to do stuff too. So another thing that, just so you know, with Disney, since they're planning to do whatever, but that shouldn't be really a surprise, I guess. So yeah, I'm sure those financial incentives help to affirm and solidify that gender dysphoria. But to come at 12 and to start the social transition and to have that kind of heavy spotlight while you're dealing with something that is a mental condition, is really rough. It's really rough and not in the benefit of that person. And if they're thinking about using hormones or anything like that, before he turns 18, that's going to be well, I think it's immoral, but it's awful to be a woman, a mother, and to see her child go through this and not even have custody, and then the man trying to watch my language. I wasn't going to swear anything. I don't do that, but there were other words on the tip of my tongue. The nerve of that man to say it was a courtesy. I am concerned that her child is being, well, I already said that. The law is murky when it comes to divorced parents agreeing on and making decisions on behalf of their transgender children. And her filing, Shyavon, maybe that's how I say it, claims that Dwyane is legally required to consult her on major decisions affecting care, welfare activities, health, education, and religious upbringing. But Dwyane says he is entitled to make the decision on behalf of Zaya's behalf, regardless of her mother's input. Oh my gosh. Neither Union or Wade has publicly responded to the claims that the pair are currently in Africa's. Wait, hold on. That might be. Okay, Neither Union nor Wade has publicly responded to the claims. The pair is currently in Africa celebrating Union's 50th birthday. A hearing has been set for December to determine whether Zaya can change her name and sex without her mother's agreement. Shyavon and Wade were married between 2002 and 2010. They also share an older son, Zari, 20, In her 2012 interview with Mail Online, she told how the pair had been childhood sweethearts. When he was drafted to the NBA, he was like nothing I see now. He was very humble, very shy. She said she begged him not to enter the NBA. She had just got married and had a child. I wanted time to settle, but to build as a family. I asked him to choose between his family or him, and he chose his family. She said the following year he signed an 8.5 million contract and became an overnight star. She blames his rising star for the breakdown of their marriage. Wade met Union in 2007 while the pair co-hosted a Super Bowl party. He filed for divorce later that year. I've only seen a little bit of this stuff. I'm in where I haven't followed them deeply, but that's trifling. That is trifling. Since 2009, Wade and Union have described how Zaya came out to them and how they now know her as her authentic self. Our then 12-year-old came home and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you guys. I think going forward, I'm ready to live my truth, and I want to be referenced as she and her, and I would love for you guys to call me Zaya," he told Ellen DeGeneres during an appearance on her show. In a later interview with People, he said Zaya's transition gave him hope. He first spoke of her transition in 2019 on the Matt Barnes podcast, All the Smoke. "I had to look at myself in the mirror when my son at the time was 3 years old, and me and my wife started to have conversations about us noticing that he wasn't on the boy vibe that older brother Zari was on." What does that mean? What does that mean? At 3? At 3? I had to look myself in the mirror and say, what if your son comes home and tells you he's gay? What are you going to do? Is he gay because he was dating a girl who said she was a boy, right? I think that was them. You're going to talk about strength and courage. My 12-year-old has way more than I have. You can learn something from your kids. In our household, that's all we talk about. We talk about making sure our kids be seen by each other, seen by each of us. We want them to be whoever they feel they can be in this world. That's our goal. I watched my son from day one become into who she now eventually has become into. And for me, it's all about nothing changes with my love, nothing changes in my responsibility. So all I had to do was get smarter, educate myself more, and that's my job. Yeah, so his son is still a son, he's still a boy. And at 12, someone has gender dysphoria, this is a terrible thing to go in through the spotlight, especially as it's obviously a huge trend. He has all these like financial incentives, these social incentives from this Hollywood crazy atmosphere. And apparently that's not going to stop anytime soon. So he's just incentivized to go through this path rather than if he has genuine gender dysphoria and is not something that's like really socially constructed by the social contagion element of it. He's not really getting to the root of that because everyone has just decided to affirm and just throw money at this kid. And Gabrielle Union, I gotta say, seems like a freaking weirdo to me. She kind of has high diff energy to me. She kind of seems like I am the problem kind of energy, but this man obviously got issues too. And I would have to fight somebody if they told me that they just gave me a courtesy and they are about to take my child and allow them to do all this kind of madness. Oh my gosh, I'm exploding. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. This story is wild. This story is wild. Yeah. Thank you for the confirmation, Tina. Yeah, so their son was dating a trans man. And so First of all, that's just weird anyway. Second of all, this kid's like 15, so that was probably like last year, right? I know kids date young or whatever, but it's just it's so weird. Like this kid should be doing math or something, you know. But these big corporations have paid this child to be a model. Brands like they said Tiffany, Dove. He has all these social media followers trying to affirm. And by the way, if you say something about them, they come for you. I haven't really talked about them in public, I guess, really. But Dylan Mulvaney, I talked about the other day. my TikTok video got taken down. At first, it was reported, and I won my appeal. I was a little surprised I won my appeal, to be honest with you. And then people re-reported it, and then TikTok didn't give me the option of repealing it again. I reached out to them and said, I won my first appeal. What are you guys doing? And no, they didn't get back to me on that. Again, I'm not surprised because they want to protect it so much that you can't have conversations, you can't criticize. Like people reporting comments when I just said, because Dylan Mulvaney was talking about his experience with girlhood, and he carries tampons in his purse. For what? And he's talking about normalizing the bulge and all this other stuff, and how he wants to experience girlhood and being a mom, or his experiences in girlhood. I'm just like, he can't experience girlhood. Even comments like that, people are like we're reporting. You can't even have conversations about this stuff. So if the public can't even have conversations like this, I doubt this kid's probably getting the thorough therapy that they need. It takes time to diagnose gender dysphoria. And there's people who don't even want to dive into really seeing if they have gender dysphoria or if there's something else underlining that is attributing to the body dysmorphia, or attributing to them feeling like they have that. I mean, I've heard some detransitioners say stuff like, well, first of all, going through puberty is awkward enough, but some women haven't liked, sometimes it's internalized misogyny. Sometimes it's a girl's just the fear and the anxiety of being hypersexualized by their peers or just people in general, or looking how people will sexualize women and not wanting to be a victim like that, but then they transition and they end up getting victimized one way or another. It's just a really dark process. It's just a really dark process. And this poor kid, this poor woman, just wanting to protect their child. You can at least, what's the harm in just waiting till they're 18? Because he'll probably do it. He's got a lot of financial incentives. Why would he just change his mind? Why would he change his mind? Because he could go on just being who he is without like hormones or puberty blockers or anything like that. He'll still get money saying that he's a girl. So if he just decides that it really isn't for him, there's always a chance he could just go along with it until a certain age to keep making the money and getting the contracts anyway. What is the harm to waiting till this person is 18 to make those decisions? Why do you have to inject yourself, start this beef with the mother of your child, try to flex the fact that you have the custody, which your fame and fortune probably bought you, and be disrespectful again to the mother of your child? These people are trash. Oh my gosh. This is sick. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna move on. By the way, there was some data that came out from the Supreme Court during the Harvard case that was pretty interesting. Hopefully this won't be too small for me to see. Oh, it's kind of small for me to see on here. I don't know if it's too small for you guys, but Here's their preferences for underrepresented minorities and the data. So, looking at the different scores and the likelihood of when you're able to get in. So, you could see that people who are African Americans performing not so great are as likely to get in as the patients who are like performing like the best. Um, it's pretty nuts. So I think that Harvard case, there, I think affirmative action is probably going to go down in flames. There's two different cases that they're looking at right now, and I know Clarence Thomas is against stuff like that. And also Sotomayor said some stuff the other day. It seemed like she was confusing different um laws or principles or something, and Alito had to go back and forth with her a bit to try to, I don't know, ease her into a correction. And Ketanji Brown Jackson isn't going to rule in the Harvard case, so you really do have a conservative bent slant. So I think affirmative action does not have long for this world. Again, I said this yesterday. I once had a conversation with someone about affirmative action, and they said, "Well, you know what? If it was my child, I would want them to have an advantage." And I just kind of paused for a second and looked at him. I said, "That's because your child would be black." It's like Asians, they don't want their kid to be at a disadvantage because they're Asian. They do not want that. So, people could look at it through that lens, have some compassion for the people who are hurt in it. And there's a lot of, I guess, white folks out there probably really excited, that hoping that they'll get into college more. And I don't know, maybe the Asians will take up all the spots. Who knows? Because they do score apparently very high, but and affirmative action has been holding them back. So let people just work, and they can do their test scores and their admission essays, etc., and just let people in based on the merit, and let it be. But yeah, I don't think affirmative action has long for this world. We're waking up to a new age very soon, very very soon. Another thing that's really interesting, the Democrats are flipping out. I said at the beginning of the hour that the Democrats are investing a lot of money now, dumping a lot of money into areas that are blue. They're supposed to be pretty solid blue, that they're concerned about being tossed with places in New York and places in California. Um, Miami-Dade has more Republicans early voting than Democrats. Ron DeSantis is probably going to, I already said this, but yesterday, I think the day before, but Ron DeSantis is probably going to take Miami-Dade. And it's very possible that there's going to be a Republican governor of New York. That hasn't happened in a long time, but the climate is right. Hochul doesn't have any sort of back infrastructure as far as people supporting her, because she took over when Cuomo got ousted, and she's just very terrible in general. But she's very terrible at campaigning. She's complaining about Zeldin talking about crime when crime is something that's very, very concerning to people. The Democrats are trying to shift, and the media's trying to shift and say that Republicans are only talking about crime because they're racist or bring it up to be racist. Minorities care about crime. They want safer neighborhoods. They want the police to show up in a timely manner when you call. So my sister had a conversation with somebody, and they said, "Well, how much funding do you need for police?" And she said, "However much it takes for them to get there within 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes." She said that's exactly how many police officers and how funded they need to be. But there's places now in my county where I live. You can call the police; they'll get there pretty fast. But my car was broken into a couple years ago in Detroit, and they basically, you call them and they just file a police report. That's what it's for. I'm just like alone in Detroit. I'm just like, no one cares. Man, they broke in. They stole. I was in a Mexican town. They broke in my car, and I never leave my. And this was a dumb thing to do. And I never, ever, ever, ever leave my computer anywhere. But I was going to an event, and it was a Christmas party for the 14th district, and I was late. And so I just rushed in there and I didn't grab my backpack. I always grab my backpack, and I was commuting between like Lansing and back in my home in like Oakland County um over the weekend. So I had like a duffel bag of clothes and other stuff like that, and I had my laptop and my work laptop. And so when I came out, I had a great night at the Christmas party. Came out, but my windows were busted, and they took my duffel bag with my big old clothes. I'm a big woman. Who did they give those clothes to? They took my clothes. And they took my backpack that had my work computer and my personal computer, which had so many files. A lot of my stuff wasn't backed up like on the cloud. So there's like a lot of graphic files that I didn't have. Like most of my Word document stuff I was saving on the OneDrive, so that wasn't a big miss, I guess. But like files of like some artwork that I've done for my book covers and other stuff like that, just gone. So that was awful. But just you just call them for basically police report, and go from there. Someone from San Francisco had a pretty viral tweet the other day. They were talking about how everyone's obsessed with the Nancy Pelosi and her husband story, which is a terrible thing to have a crazy person break into your home and hit you in the head with a hammer. That's terrible. But they pointed out that their friend just got clobbered. They were mugged, and he showed a picture of his friend had a big gash on his head, had to go to the hospital, and they're like, "What? I'm sorry that happened to Pelosi, but why is it that people only seem to care about how bad the crime is when it hits a neighborhood like that, or it's somebody important or deemed it important? But there's all these people who are victims all the time, and they pay very little attention to." And I thought it was a valid point. As a matter of fact, this point I made the other day. California is also seeing everywhere is seeing high crime. And Gavin Newsom and other people are trying to say that it's like red Republicans or red states that have big crime. Where in what cities though are they happening in? Are they blue? Are they blue? I bet they're blue. But minorities deeply care about crime. Um, so the Democrats really wanted abortion to be a main issue. You know, they care about climate change and all that other kind of stuff. But what Black voters in particular care about is violent crime. It is a high issue for Black voters. It looks like more so than anyone else, really. You got 81% there that say it's very important. So if you are not focused on high crime and how you're going to protect people, that's why you're going to run into a lot of trouble during these midterms. And it's why these Democrats are being clobbered, because they have ridiculous systems with the no cash bail, where someone can get in trouble one day and be out within 24 hours to terrorize the rest of the people on the street for very serious crimes. We're not talking about petty crimes. We're talking about very, very, very violent crimes. They can be just like immediately back on the street. People are very concerned. I've been like, there are different places that I wanted to go, and I would travel with my sister to sell my books, go to different conventions and stuff. And we were talking about going to New York, at the Javits Center, which is like in Hell's Kitchen. Watch Daredevil, Hell's Kitchen. It's actually like, when I actually went there, I'm just like, Hell's Kitchen seems kind of nice. It doesn't seem like what Netflix made it seem like. But I don't know. I told her, I said, and they are like stabbing people in broad daylight. And she's like, broad daylight? I said, yeah, broad daylight. And there was one video a couple weeks ago. I talked about it, but I wouldn't show it to you guys. It was just horrific. It was a paramedic who was just stabbed to death by a crazy person, just repeatedly. And it was awful. And when people have to live with that sort of crime, believing that they're not safe, what do you think they're going to do? New York has had a shift before, like Rudy Giuliani. He got in because crime was so terrible that people tried something different. So people are willing to try something different. People are willing to try something different. And you know what? In Michigan, um, there's a poll that has. I think there were some polls that maybe had even DePerno ahead, but very close with Dana Nessel. Um, and she's crazy. A lot of people think that he's crazy, but she's definitely crazy. She's definitely crazy. But crime is bad here too, especially with fentanyl. That's become a major concern. And so people, CNN, Jake Tapper had a segment where he was trying to downplay the crime across the country on CNN. And you can try that, but when people watch their local news and they see how bad the crime, not only how bad the crime is, but how low staffed the police are. There was a report I saw with my local Sheriff Bouchard, talking about how he's never seen it like this, how hard it is to get people to come in and do these roles and fill these spots. And you're seeing carjackings up. Like, my sister let me know a couple weeks ago. She's like, "Hey, just so you know, be careful out there. They're reporting that there's a lot of carjackings." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that's happening all over. So you can try to say and downplay it and claim that crime's not that bad and just blaming the atmosphere on Republicans making all these ads and Fox News reposting all this stuff, or people posting it on TikTok, or not TikTok, it wouldn't be on TikTok, like on Twitter and all this other stuff. But people, again, will watch their local news, or they'll hear about someone who's a victim that they know, or that they suffered some kind of crime, and they're not just going to be able to memory hole that when they're living in terror. It's just a terrible, terrible, desperate sort of play from the Democrats. That's just not going to work. Now, I'm curious, I guess, what the black vote might turn out to be. I don't have high hopes that they're just going to surge and vote Republican all of a sudden. But though we are seeing that shift with Hispanics for sure. But what we are seeing, I think, is a lack of enthusiasm for a lot of black voters. I was talking to my sister the other night. She was saying that she heard that there's just a lot of ballots and stuff in Wayne County. They're just kind of sitting. And people they haven't been very enthused, and they're still not very enthused. And they really, really think that stuff like abortion is going to move people out. And granted, the majority of people who have abortions in Michigan are black, or but not everybody has abortions, and not everybody likes abortion. And even though they may think that you have the right to have an abortion, that doesn't mean that they're going to take the effort to go to the polls to vote for it. So people were so concerned after the Dobbs decision. And maybe if there was an immediate election after that decision, it would have played more of a role, but it's just not what the Democrats wanted. And January 6th definitely didn't have the steam to ride out the entire time to election day. And now they're trying to revitalize it. Like, Whoopi Goldberg was complaining about Fox News and how they make it seem like one side is so bad. And I know what you're probably thinking. Whoopi Goldberg has some nerve, and you had Joy like egging her on, like, yeah. I'm like, bro, you're on The View. Let's ask Meghan McCain if Whoopi Goldberg is like, both sides are good. Those people, her and Joy, they could be so hateful. Even Anna, not even Anna as well, even though she used to be Republican. Maybe she still identifies as it, I guess. I guess she does, but she's just definitely not a great one. They've contributed to the negative rhetoric, for sure. For sure. But hey, let's blame it on Fox News. Let's blame it on Republicans, because that's why Nancy Pelosi's husband got knocked in the head, because they're airing campaign ads where people are talking about the Second Amendment and have guns in them. Just utter desperateness. And it's just really, really, really not going to work. Not going to work. It's especially not going to work when they have such terrible candidates. I played this yesterday, but I'm going to go ahead and play it again with Fetterman on CNN with Don Lemon, and they're trying so hard. They're trying so hard, but it's just not going to work.
Well, let's talk about inflation because that's a big concern for voters. What do you think the biggest cause of inflation is, and should the Biden administration be doing more?
No, I just do. I think that simply is also, Leah, let's talk about the trillions in massive tax cuts to the corporate tax structure as well. True. Trillions of dollars that have added to the deficit. And now they still want to support those as well. True. I think in terms of being very serious about addressing inflation is making sure that those rates are brought back into a line with what they should have been, where they're able to fight the deficit.
What does that even mean? What does that even mean? So it's so funny that they were just like, oh, they had this plan of let's get the worst Republicans to win the primaries, and then we're just going to sweep them. It's not going to work out how they wanted. Particularly, they wanted Carrie Lake to be the nominee because they thought she'd be easier for Katie Hobbs to defeat. Carrie Lake is like ahead in the polls. Carrie Lake is just a beast of a woman. And the Democrats are just going to get shellacked in a lot of places, even places that weren't originally on the radar. I know starting off, they probably didn't think that New York was going to be competitive. And Zeldin has gotten impressive endorsements, even like split ticket endorsements that were really good. And Hochul is having a campaign rally with Hillary Clinton and Harris, who, by the way, the Washington Post is saying shouldn't be, that Biden and Harris should step aside. And I don't know how that's going to work out for the Democrats, because they wanted Kamala Harris, because Joe Biden wanted someone black. He said he wanted a woman, and then all these prominent figures signed a letter. Black prominent figures like Charlemagne and other folks said, you need to pick a black woman. And I'm sure they ended up writing this letter because not only because they wanted a black woman, but because he had done some pretty racist stuff, said some pretty racist stuff. And I guess that was their way of trying to forgive him, to make penance or something. So he had a couple of choices that he could have made. And I think there are some that would have been better than Kamala Harris, but he picked Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is very awful at her job of being vice president. Even like light interviews, she sounds like a moron. And I don't think everyone knew that she was a moron before she became vice president. But apparently she is. So she's not going to be able to take on the mantle. If Biden, there's whisperings that he's actually thinking about it or talking about it. He hasn't made a final decision, but they are prepping for a re-election. I think a lot of people are going to just try to shut him down before that happens. I don't think the Democrats will let them get that far. I think they will devour him first. But if they push Kamala Harris aside, the person who they had to choose because that was how they appeased people of color, I don't know how that's going to go down in the least bit, especially if they don't replace her with another black person. I think people would feel like that was a really tremendous slight if they just push her aside. So I think there's a big risk in them doing that. I think she will obviously not get very far if she is the one. I think she'll obviously get wrecked if it's her versus Ron DeSantis, just about any Republican probably. I think she'll get wrecked, but Ron DeSantis or Trump, I'd have to say, is going to be the nominee. But I'm not sure if Trump's gonna do it. I heard he was pretty, after the Mar-a-Lago thing, he has a very petty streak in him. And but I just don't know. I'm not 100% that he's going to actually do a 2024 campaign. But if it's Ron DeSantis, let's say it's Ron DeSantis, Kamala Harris is just not going to be able to win that. And I don't believe that there's really any Democrat that would be, unless some drastic things change in the political landscape. But Kamala Harris ain't the one. And if they put her aside, that's not gonna look good. Especially since I think if Whitmer wins re-election, she would be on the fast track to being one of the top people they consider for being the presidential nominee. I think so. So wherever you live, I think it's very important to take out Whitmer. You want to contribute and help to do that. Someone said Ron and Tulsi for the win. By the way, Tulsi Gabbard, let me pull out my phone because I think I like this tweet. She is saying a lot of the right things. She was like, maybe people see her as a moderate, but at the same time, she is saying great things that I agree with. I'm just a little concerned. I'm a little leery on how much trust to afford to Tulsi. I mean, she's saying a lot of things that make sense, but there were still things about her that I think a lot of people were ignoring with her record, as far as she's still like on the left. She's just not crazy. So anyway, she said woke doctors and hospitals mutilating children's bodies and minds for money and profit should not only lose their licenses and be cut off from all federal state funds, they should be imprisoned. That is super based. Someone in the comments said, "Wow, you went MAGA fast." That is the path that the people on the right, the hard right, are pushing and trying to get Republicans on that particular train. She's already there. So I don't know how much of a legitimate awakening it is on all these issues. I do believe that I think most people could be honest about like the transgender issue and how it affects women and other kind of stuff, and hold like similar positions if they just weren't crazy, like dedicated to the hard ideological position. So I don't think saying something like that is so out of pocket, or some of the other stuff that she said regarding this issue is so out of pocket. But I'm just not totally sold. I'll just say I'm just not totally sold. She's smart though. Whatever's going on, I think she's smart. Whatever's going on, I think she's smart. And if she is vying for some kind of like run to be attached on somebody's VP and be some kind of unity ticket, I think she's going the way that she feels that she needs to go. I still think the Democrats are crazy for not going with Tulsi Gabbard, but I mean, they won the way that they won. In my opinion, they probably could have won with a lot of different picks the way that they won, which I mean by like crippling the entire economy and holding the country captive with pandemic fear porn and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, if Biden campaigning in his basement, they definitely could have had someone like Tulsi pushing her over the finish line, or a lot of other maybe folks that they had, but they felt like Biden was their best bet. But when I first saw Tulsi Gabbard, I was like, who is this woman? Because she's pretty. I'm going to throw that out there. People do notice that stuff. She didn't seem crazy. She served. She had the cool X-Men hair. And she's just really, she's young comparatively for like politicians. And she seemed reasonable. She still had she still has left views. I don't know how deep her left views are. Like, I'd love to sit down and not nail her, but press her about like some of her positions on abortion and other things like that that still matter to folks. Um, but I saw her like on Fox, and I'm like, she could be dangerous as far as like if the Democrats uplifted her, and they decided to not do that. Hillary Clinton tried to say she was a Russian asset and all this other kind of stuff. So they decided to reject her, and she said, "Screw you! I'm going to go campaign to make Republican governors." So she's actually been in my state traveling with Tudor Dixon and stuff. I think she's already gone, but last weekend that's what she was doing. She's promoting Republicans. So she's whatever's going on, I'll say she's wise, very wise, having a smart play, and I think she's got a future, or she's trying to forge her path. For sure. For sure. Last thing I just want to mention before I let you go. I was going back and forth with some people today about Prop 3 in Michigan. I was on Twitter, and I had posted a meme, I guess. And it's really more like an infographic, not so much a meme, about Prop 3 that I had made for the Brighter Michigan PAC. And it says, it's a nice graphic. Democrats try to remove parental consent twice. Prop 3 is the third time. It has a picture of a black woman like holding her child. It says vote no on Prop 3. In 2019 and 2021, Democrats introduced the Reproductive Health Act that would have repealed parental consent laws. Planned Parenthood advocates of Michigan and the ACLU supported it. Prop 3 could destroy parental consent. So people are trying to say that, oh, that's not true. Prop 3 won't get rid of consent. I'm like, will you at least agree that Democrats and ACLU and Planned Parenthood tried to get rid of it before? Like, can you at least agree to that? And they didn't want to say. So we kept going back and forth and kept pressing and debunking them. And then eventually they just went the route of saying, you're being used by MAGA, and they don't care about black people or something. Like, here's what they exactly said. Nope, you are being deceived by the MAGAs. If you are black, they are using you. Why they said if? I have my profile picture is what it is. He said, if you are black, they are using you. Like, they are using Herschel Walker. So I'm talking about a particular issue. I'm not mentioning Trump or anything else. I've had this account for a while. Obviously just throwing out my own opinions, stating facts, bringing the receipts, and they go to this emotional place and saying I'm being used. And the MAGAs are using me as a black person. So I said, you racist troll, you couldn't debate the facts, so you leaped to emotional manipulation. And I said in 2021, Michigan had 30,774 induced abortions. 15,784 of the sons and daughters killed were black, despite only being 14.1% of the population. Don't pretend you care about black people. So that's not the first time people try to say stuff like that. And it won't be the last, but I'm just like, really? Like, you just stick to the actual conversation. And then to compare me to Herschel Walker. What the freak? What the heck? Herschel Walker, I've said, would not have been my first pick, which I'm surprised and glad he beat Warnock in the debate. He had some nice digs, etc. But we're just not alike in a lot of regards, particularly how I can talk about the issues, how long I've been a conservative, how He has a very checkered history. I don't. And this person doesn't know all that. But to make that comparison with Herschel Walker is, I know he's relevant because he's running right now. But he's been a long time friend of Trump. And I would assume he had some more, even though he had a checkered history and a, like the bed hop, I suppose is the most polite way to put it. That doesn't mean that he didn't hold some other sort of conservative values, because a lot of black people do. A lot of black people do. They may go and they may vote blue, but a lot of a lot of people of color, period, have cultural stuff, religion stuff ingrained in them that they still very much are conservative if they just wake up and realize it. My dad, when he was a Democrat, someone just had to be like, my sister had to be like, Dad, you are like a conservative too. And he wasn't happy with the Democrats anyway. He didn't like Bill Clinton and other stuff. And he just thought about it and he was just like, you know what, you're right. I am a conservative. So I hope the black voters have an awakening, and you see a shift, especially with crime being so important to folks in the Hispanic community, starting to shift. If they just lose some of the black vote, they're just done right now. Democrats are just done. But also, if people just aren't enthused and don't vote, that'll also be good for Republicans too, frankly. And they're not very excited about these candidates and these progressive white liberals who say the darndest, most racist stuff. They really are just the worst. But anyway, I thank you guys for watching. Please check out different merchandise that I have at blacktnews.com, like the goat hoodies. I do have them in different colors as well. Goat hoodies, goat t-shirts. I also have the Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden with a list of some of the racist stuff on the back. Also, I got the You Are Not the Special. I got Roe and Casey aborted shirts, all kinds of goodies. Also, check out different articles that I've written. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost to stream, cost to run my website, cost to travel, cost to do all sorts of things. I could use more equipment and other stuff like that. If you would like to help with the overhead, go ahead and go to the website, leave a donation. I very much appreciate it. Make sure you're following, liking, subscribing, all the good stuff. And I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless.